Welcome to the Red Hawk Sports Network for a special report. I'm Vincent Picone, and I'm joined by Ryan Nussbaum. Montclair State University announced on Friday, December 13th, that this spring will be the last season that women's and men's lacrosse will be a varsity sport, and they will be adding women's flag football.
The news was announced in a post on the athletics website. RHSN has reached out, but Montclair State offered no further comment other than what was initially released. Today, we are here to talk about what we know, and we are going to try to put together all the information in one place.
In a press release, Athletics announced that effective fall 2025, both the men's and women's lacrosse teams will be discontinued and will transition to the club status. The university cited, quote, evolving students' interests and financial realities, end quote, as the reason behind the change, but declined to elaborate further. Women's flag football will be introduced, set to kick off as a fall sport across both the Montclair and Bloomfield campuses. The university will now sponsor 21 athletic programs at the NCAA Division II and Division III levels.
Women's flag football is pretty new, but growing on the national landscape. When fall of 2025 gets here, we don't know about recruiting, roster sizes, or coaching staff. All we can confirm that it will kick off next fall. More on that later.
Both lacrosse teams were informed last Friday in meetings that the school will no longer support a men's or women's D3 program. Just before the release was posted, the teams will have a spring 2024 season, which is slated to start in March. But that will be it. There is lots of speculation out there as to why this happened, and no one can answer except the administration and athletics. But here are some things to know.
This will affect around 70 athletes on campus. This doesn't include athletes who were recruited and were planning on joining the team for the 2025-2026 academic year. Also, it is still in question what will happen to the coaching staffs of both teams. Some of the staff members hold other jobs in the athletics department. For example, women's assistant coach Kelsey Winthrop has also served as the program assistant in compliance and eligibility office. Many assistant coaches tend to have other jobs outside of the school, but not head coaches.
Athletes have been making their voices heard online, which includes commenting on socials, and a petition has been started to restore the teams. It has over 14,000 signatures, but as has been stated on the athletics website, when asked if the decision was final, they replied with, quote, yes, the decision is final. The university is moving forward this plan to ensure sustainability, athletics opportunities for all students. This shift enhances club-level play, promotes inclusivity, and aligns with national trends, supports student wellness, end quote. Some athletes have also posted comments like senior David Driscoll.
My college lacrosse team was just cut in replacement for women's flag football. And no, I'm not joking, I really wish I was. There's actually going to be a women's flag football team taking the spot of men's and women's lacrosse at my school. I'm a big fan of women's sports, and I'm a huge advocate for having equal access to sports for everyone, no matter your race, gender, ethnicity. But cutting a program in replacement for another is absolutely terrible. I was informed of this news about an hour before the public knew at a team meeting, and basically they told us that the reason they're doing this is because they see that lacrosse is on a downtrend at the NCAA level, when that is not true whatsoever. Anyone with half a brain knows that lacrosse is the fastest growing sport at all levels in the country. This is extremely devastating, and we are working to get this decision reversed right now with a petition. The link's in my bio. But boys, let me know what I should do. Should I transfer somewhere and take another year at a different school, or should I stay this last season?
We now bring in Luke Sirianni, one of our reporters here at the Red Hawk Sports Network. Luke, you've seen some athletes and their opinions on the situation. What have you seen?
Thank you, Vincent. Well, first of all, it's a very difficult situation for the athletes. A lot of these students chose Montclair State to solely play lacrosse. I spoke to David Driscoll, who is a fifth-year senior, and took an extra year to stay. As you saw in that post, he couldn't believe it. David is a graduating senior this spring, and the sport of lacrosse is something that he loves. He told me that there was a team meeting to announce the news, and David said the room had a, quote, feeling of devastation, sadness, and anger from everyone. He also mentioned that this news made his hard work feel disrespected by the university.
Luke, thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll see you next time, bud.
David and others have brought up the idea that they are cutting a men's sport to make room for a women's, which is not entirely true since women's lacrosse was also cut. Also, there has been talk of this helping with Title IX numbers. For those who don't know, Title IX is a federal law that prohibits sex discrimination and education programs and activities that receive federal funding. In terms of athletics, this is what they call the three-prong test. The one prong this would affect in the simplest term is proportionality. That means, quote, it evaluates whether the number of male and female student athletes is proportional to the overall male and female student enrollment is significantly lower than the proportion of female students in the school. This prong is not satisfied, end quote. According to U.S. News and World Report, in the fall of 2023, Montclair State was 59.9% female. That means that 59.9% of student athletes would need to be as well. And when you have a men's football team with 150 athletes and no female equivalent, it's hard to hit that benchmark. We could be losing more female athletes than we may be gaining. So the idea that this is strictly to make room for a women's sport may not track. Since women's lacrosse could easily be a larger roster than a flag football team based on different versions of the sport, again, more on flag football rosters later.
Another thing that people seem to be questioning is a sport that has been on the uprise all around the world has been cut here at Montclair. There are leagues beyond college for both the men and women. Premier League lacrosse with the Women's League recently being added, slated to start with the Lexus 2025 Championship Series, with 8 teams listed. According to the National Federation of State High School Association, participants in high school lacrosse grew by 528% from 1990 to 2008. It has been called the fastest growing sport in North America by NBC News. But let's look more locally. According to the New Jersey State Interscholastic Athletics Association 2023 to 2024 annual report, boys lacrosse is ranked 8th on the top 10 of sports they are participating in, and 7th for the girls, with about 8,500 participants per, since the 2022 to 2023 report.
To give insight into the effect outside the boundaries of current players and coaches, Montclair State alumnus and former men's lacrosse player Kevin Gondres was a member of the team from 2002 to 2005. He's the program's all-time assist leader and ranks 9th in team history in goals. After the news was announced on Friday, Gondres wrote a letter to Montclair Local detailing his feelings about the discontinuation of lacrosse, a sport that he says has a deep tie to the Montclair community as a whole. All right, thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Gondres. So my first question for you, what were your immediate reactions to the news, and kind of what prompted you to write the letter that you submitted to Montclair Local?
The immediate reaction to the news was that, this was really a sad day for lacrosse in terms of the surrounding area of Montclair. It's a lacrosse town, has been since 1893, and the program has been around 53 years. And that legacy is kind of being torn apart there. I don't know if you know this, but Montclair lacrosse was started by an African-American student in 1973, and his name was Houston Weber, and he was able to kind of gather together all these people above and get approval and raise the funding to get this first team going. That was 53 years ago. And so there's a massive legacy that was really kind of just dismissed in this kind of play.
Yeah, and you were a senior on that 2005 team, which was kind of in a very similar spot. You know, the team was cut, the men's team, in addition to a few other teams at Montclair State. But you guys were able to fight back and get the team reinstated by the end of the semester. What are your big takeaways from that experience, and what do you remember most about that year?
What I remember is we were gutted, right? We felt gutted. We felt like there was no real rational thinking behind the decision. And we were confused as young students might feel. You know, sometimes there's issues of budgetary, sometimes there's issues of other things, right? So we were feeling like the university had turned their back on us, and that we needed to fight for our right to kind of be there in terms of playing that season and continuing the legacy of Montclair. Now, this was 20 years ago to this day, so we're not unusual. Like, you know, we are familiar with this fight. You know, fighting for lacrosse in Montclair State seems to now be a thing that we probably will have to do. But we feel very positive about our chances and kind of reinstating it and knowing that this fastest growing sport across America is something that does fit into their agenda of trends, you know, and we just need to know how we can be a part of making sure that the university kind of supports that thinking.
So outside of budgetary issues, what did the Board of Trustees bring up as reasons that the men's and women's lacrosse teams were transitioned over to club teams?
Yeah, so initially, you know, we had been told that it was a very broad response, right? It was creating new opportunities for the broader vision of Montclair State's athletic department and recreation department. But you know, when you speak of new opportunities while taking away current opportunities from others, it becomes a little convoluted of a response. So we got together collectively as men's and women's alumni and current players, and you know, we went to that board meeting and made sure that we had an opportunity to speak in front of the board and ask for those questions. It was then that we were able to find out that they are now responding now with a much clearer narrative and a change in tune, which seemed a little kind of different than what we had been told before. That now it is clearly a budgetary issue, and you know, like I said before, we are looking for opportunities to work with the university and create some solves and solutions. You know, we have a strong alumni base. You know, if money is an issue, you know, we can reach out to our strong alumni foundation and raise it, and kind of maybe even create a pay-to-play situation.
So did the Board of Trustees respond well to the idea of alumni and outside donors potentially helping to fund the program themselves?
Well, we haven't been able to get to that point yet of the conversation. This is coming off of a meeting that we had with the Board of Trustees literally an hour prior to this call. And, you know, this is an option that we're trying to explore and seeing if we can create basically, you know, ask for an Oprah, like that's a public rights. We're trying to collect all the budgetary issues and seeing if like the numbers that they're telling us it costs, can we cover it ourselves, right? So this is all very fresh, very new. So currently we don't have an answer from the Board of Trustees, being that this is a new kind of point in direction, and the transparency from the board is becoming clearer to us than it initially had been.
One final question. So you were in the same position all those years ago. What advice do you have for this current group of lacrosse players when they're facing a very similar situation?
So I would tell the current students to stay positive. You attract a lot more flies with honey. And so, you know, going at this very strategically and seeing how we can work with the university is the best way to approach this, but also to never stop fighting for what you believe in terms of like wherever you are on your beliefs, right? So make sure that if you wholeheartedly believe in it, it's worth fighting for that cause. And I think, you know, that these two current teams have that gusto to kind of continue going. And that's what would be my clear message to them, making sure that, you know, they never stop believing that they can get this reversed, hopefully.
Mr. Gondres, thank you very much for taking just a little bit of time out of your day to come talk to us. We both appreciate it a lot. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
These players have a choice to make. Do they play out their season and start the process fresh over the summer? Do they leave now and try to get on a team in the spring? This not being an immediate change, these players have to figure out the next steps if they choose to.
This isn't the first time lacrosse has been cut, or any other sport. This kind of thing does happen.
We've been talking about the students and what they do, but let's talk about the coaches. Starting out with Matt Pasque, the head coach of the men's lacrosse team. He is currently in his 6th season and played at the Division I level at the University of Virginia, where he was an All-American midfielder who also won 2 national championships. Along with Montclair, he was the assistant coach at Drew and head coach at Division I Wagner. So he will probably have lots of options before him. This could be a chance for him to make the move back to D1 if that aligns to what he is looking for. 6 seasons here have gained valuable head coaching experience to an already impressive resume.
For the women's team, Coach Nicole Paraluzzi has been coaching here for 19 years, about to enter her 20th season. She is the all-time winningest coach in program history with a 189 and 104 record. She has won 6 Skyline Conference championships with Montclair. Now, prior to Montclair, she was an assistant coach for 2 years at Mount St. Mary's College in Emsburg, Maryland. Like Pasque, we are sure Coach has a lot of options, being a valued member of the lacrosse community and ties to so many others. I mean, she played on the Rutgers lacrosse team back in 1999, helping them to an NCAA appearance. Maybe it's time to go back to her roots. So that's what we know about the lacrosse program as of right now, but it's not all loss here.
Montclair will be adding women's flag football in the fall of 2025. There are a bunch of questions that are being raised about the format, recruiting, coaching, and more. Flag football isn't an NCAA sport, though flag football has become an exciting new sport in the United States. Specifically here in New Jersey, almost 200 high schools now offer women's flag football as a varsity sport. This is compared to only 52 a year ago. There are 11 NJIC schools being underwritten by the New York Jets and Nike. Montclair State will become the first college or university to have a varsity level flag football team in New Jersey.
This isn't new. Flag football has been in the forefront of women's sports recently. There is a women's flag football national championship run by the NAIA, the National Association of Intercollegiate Sports. They have no schools in New Jersey under their conferences. Many play in Southern, Midwest, or private schools, more locally. In 2023, there was the first ever U.S. Army Bowl flag football All-American team. 20 young women were chosen to head to Frisco, Texas to play. A handful of Paramus High School students and teachers were on that team. There is also flag football in Ridgewood. The size of the team and rosters will vary depending on what league this is a part of. But many teams seem to play with the 7-player aside. We are now joined by Coach Mon. She coaches at Montclair Center Court and coaches women's flag football there. Coach, I'm really interested to know how you've seen flag football grow in the past couple of years.
Well, I'll tell you, when I first got involved with this flag football, I didn't know what I was getting myself into because I'm a tackle football coach, been over 20 plus years. But over the time, seeing girls flag go, it's just been something tremendous. I can tell you right now that, girls flag football, it's a really tough sport. Not as easy as I thought it would be, but it's really competitive and it's taking everybody by storm for sure.
And Coach, I know you coach high school, but how have you really seen high school flag football and now the transition to college flag football?
So with college football, seeing it being something new that's coming out there, and there's actually opportunities for girls to get scholarships, is tremendous. It's actually really good. But developing them from, because I work at the center court in Montclair, so having them, come from pre-K all the way up to 8th grade, and them getting ready for high school and getting to the high school level, that's getting really competitive, especially with the Phil Simms All-Star Classic game that we at center court were able to be part of for the first time ever. It shows a whole lot of different types of angles that we can do with girls flag football. But just to see them training and getting involved with it, 2026 it'll be a sanctioned sport in the state of New Jersey all the way around. So we can't wait for that. But they are giving college scholarships out. It is going to be a 2028 Olympic sport, so it's going to be something tremendous.
And Coach, for anybody that doesn't really know the aspects of football, can you really break it down to a 101 standpoint of how flag football does work?
So a football roster, flag football, the best thing about flag football is that, you don't have designated positions like a lineman. With tackle football, you have linemen, you have set positions for people. With flag football, you can play any position wherever you're needed, especially skill levels doesn't matter. Height, strength doesn't matter, weight doesn't matter, none of that. So girls flag football is just something that's been a tough sport. Seeing them move around, do the same plays, and execute the same plays designed like we would do in the 7-on-7. So basically, 7-on-7 is something we do in high schools. But for girls flag football, it's 7-on-7 as well, sometimes 5-on-5, and you're out there playing back and forth, running the same routes that we're running, from fly route to wheel route to whip routes, and you're doing play action fake, handing the ball off. So everything that was asked for flag football is the same with tackle football. It is really hard to a flag. You got to attack the hips, so it's pretty tough. Yeah, so flag football, you get offense, defense, like regular football. But the difference is that, there's different options. What I mean by that is that you can put, trips to the right side, having one receiver on the other side. You got a center that's snapping the ball to you, but can actually go out for a pass. That does not happen in regular football. Center snapping the ball, getting out for a pass does not happen, but it happens in girls flag football. The blitz is always coming, most of the time, 7 yards deep. The girls are coming in, depending on which rules. But you can see, with the girls playing offense, defense, playing, the game is it's very physical at times. It can really ruin, but it's very competitive. And then to go attack for a flag and grab a flag, so it takes a lot of practice. It's not as easy as everybody thinks, because some of these things are up in there, and you really got to get two hands and snatch it down. One hand grip doesn't work all the time, so you see a lot of practice to get them going. But very, very competitive sport.
And final question, Coach. Now, with a group of players that are transitioning to the collegiate level, have you talked to your players at all, or are you planning to talk to your players about potentially going to school to play flag football?
I talk to my girls every day. Their parents, you give them all the proper information that's going on, how it's taken by storm. The high school level, the collegiate level. Well, recruiting is working. It's actually happening now as we speak. I mean, there's so you got tournaments, you got camps, you got different skills and drills type of things that they can go to. Outside events, you have programs like AGF. You have so many programs out there to see girls flag football. You have the SIG, THT. You have so many different programs that are out there. So it's not just in the high schools. You actually have teams that are out there playing day in and day out, year round. It's not just a sport that you're playing one season. It's a year-round sport, which is tremendous. You don't have that with football. Football with pads, you're only in for the basic of fall. Some schools in the South are able to do spring ball, but a lot of places don't. So you only got the one opportunity. So opportunities for girls flag football is just going to grow bigger and bigger. But just to get the knowledge of it and see what's going on with this sport, it's just tremendous. And see girls excited and play hard. It's different. Like, honestly, I have so much fun doing this, coaching,
Coach Monge, I think we lost you, but if you can hear us, thank you so much for coming on today. Well, this has been a lot of information, and we will still be calling all home games for women's and men's lacrosse in the 2025 season.
Yeah, both lacrosse teams, it is their last season, but they both still have a lot to play for. Men's lacrosse wanting to contend in the CLC one last time, women's lacrosse in the NJAC one final time. But again, I know this is a lot of information that we have coming out. These things, though, over time happen. You have to look back at 2005. Men's lacrosse was cut, wrestling was cut, tennis was cut, cross country was cut. Some of those sports were able to be saved, others did not get saved. These things do happen, but for the rest of the way, we are going to try to keep you updated with as many perspectives and truly as many, kind of answers we can give you for the rest of the story as it develops.
And for the Red Hawk Sports Network, I'm Vincent Pacone, he's Ryan Nussbaum, and we'll see you next time.